Okay, hello everyone. We're just gonna get right into this since we're a few minutes late. So today's topic is Show Me the Money Budgeting Tips for Small Businesses. So let's go ahead and get started. Huge shout out to Center for Rural Affairs for being a sponsor of Grow Nebraska. Of course, without our presenters, our viewers, and our sponsors, none of these would be possible. So huge shout out to them. And you can visit cfra.org for more information about what they do and how they can help your business. Our featured sponsor is Wells Fargo Foundation, so huge thank you to them. And our featured member is Rustic and Red, and they joined Grow Nebraska in 2018. So they've been with us for about 5 years. So if you're in their area, I highly recommend that you go check out their little shop. They have gifts, wearables, you name it, they probably have it. So I highly recommend you go check them out. And then this week's presenter is Kiley Phelps. So if you have any questions for Kiley, be sure to pop them in the chat as she presents, or her contact information will be in the training recording send out. So if you come up with questions afterwards, no worries, you'll be able to contact her. So I will pass it over to Kiley.
Right, let me just pull up my slides. All right, so thank you, Zoe, for the introduction. And as Zoe mentioned, my name is Kiley Phelps, and I am with the Nebraska Business Development Center, the NBDC, and I assist small businesses to grow, expand their services. So it's a lot of words to just say that I help small businesses, basically. And at the Nebraska Business Development Center, we often hear from small business owners that the financial side of their business is something challenging to keep up with and maintain. Business owners know their operations quite well, and they often sometimes feel that their books are a little chaotic, but it does not have to be chaotic. Throughout this presentation, you will be able to learn some tips and tricks to bring order to the chaos and ultimately use a budget to save your business money. So at the Nebraska Business Development Center, we have 5 different programs that we're able to assist business owners with, and all of them are free services confidential to the business owner. So first, we have our Small Business Development Center program. So this is just for one-on-one consulting for business planning, financial projections, market research, general startup assistance. We also have our Apex team, which is government contracting, so they can help you navigate everything related to government contracting, SAM registration, finding contracts to bid on. We also have our innovation and technology sector, which is for a program for some federal funding. So if you have a fast growth prototypable product, they are able to help you navigate that sphere. So those 3 are all direct to client programs. And then we also have 2 connection programs. So NU Connections is a way to have a front door to the university system. And we also have SourceLink Nebraska. This is our newest platform, and it is a one-stop shop for connecting entrepreneurs, business owners to all of the resources that are available across the state, and they can help complete a personal action plan. So you can go in and put in a request based on what you're looking for, and they'll give you here all of the resources to reach out to. So I just wanted to give you an overview of what NBDC was, to give you a little bit of context before this presentation. And as Zoe mentioned earlier too, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, because we can have sufficient time for Q&A at the end. And if you're watching this recorded, you will have my email address as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So some of the objectives today for this presentation is to understand what a business budget is and why it is important for a business to have one. You will also learn the tips and tricks to help start and maintain a budget. You will learn some various resources that are going to help with the budgeting process. And finally, discover how a budget is going to help save your money and answer the question of, am I making money? So if your business is going through a boom and experiencing high profit, you might be thinking that it will be silly to take the time to create a budget, but hopefully you will learn throughout this presentation why it is important for all businesses to have and use a budget. So I mentioned this word a couple of times already, but I just want us all to be on the same page. So what is a budget? A budget is just a plan that is going to outline all of your earning potential and is going to provide a specific roadmap for how your expenses are going to be spent. And specifically, this is going to be in relation to business ownership. A budget is going to be a numerical representation of the written narrative business plan, and both of those two documents should supplement each other quite well. So I kind of mentioned this a little bit ago that sometimes you might not feel like you need a budget if your business is really growing or you just don't want to take the time. So you might be thinking, well, why is it important if I develop a budget for my business? So here are a couple of summary points for why all businesses should have a budget. So first, a budget is going to help separate your personal and business expenses, which is going to make it quite easier to track your profits and your spending. And kind of, again, answer that important question of, am I making money or is the money just being moved around from account to account within the business? A budget can help business owners understand the difference between fixed versus variable costs and how that's going to impact your margins, which answering those questions can help you scale your company. A budget is also going to help identify potential financial problems so the business owner can address those before they become something more concerning. A budget is also going to be a safeguard against potentially slower months due to seasonality. So you will already have a plan in place for how your expenses are going to be spent. So if those slower months come through, you already have that plan in place. A business owner is going to have better control of the business and use the budget as a tool to track the progress, and it's going to help aid in decision making so that you can scale the company. So creating a budget does not have to be intimidating or scary. I know a lot of times people get nervous with numbers, but I have outlined just 4 simple steps that you can utilize to create an effective budget. So first, define your business goals, estimate your revenue, categorize your expenses, and then monitor regularly. And those are just 4 simple steps, and we'll go into a little bit more detail here now. So the first step is to define your business goals. And this is an important first step because it's going to point you in the specific direction that you want to go in with your business. For example, if you want to achieve a specific profit margin, you can almost work backwards from that number by looking at what expenses you have and then figuring out how much revenue you must generate to earn that profit margin. Whatever kind of business you are running, there should be a reason as to why you are doing it. That is your business goal. There are some questions on the screen that can help think about what specific goal that you are working to achieve. For example, are you trying to increase sales? How much of an increase would you like to see? What are the necessary expenses? And having a defined goal will make it easier to know once you have achieved success. Because if you have that goal in mind, once you have gotten there, then you know, okay, I have achieved this, this is success for me, and then you can work towards achieving the next goal. So after you have your business goals defined, we can start looking at some of the numbers. So step 2 is going to be examining previous revenue and using that kind of as a baseline to get started with your budget. So if you're an existing business, this is a bit more easier because you can take a look back at previous bank statements, contracts, your point of sale systems, and collect that information of what you have been earning in the past. Then looking at Then after looking at your previous revenue, you can assign a percentage of growth to capture how quickly you estimate your sales increasing for the future period. So you can do some research, kind of analyze those trends, see if there's a common growth percentage so that you can estimate that for the future. If you are a startup and do not have historical financial information to go off of, that is okay, because you just kind of get to start from scratch. That's where everybody starts eventually. And you can kind of ask yourself questions about what is your capacity to produce, what are your time constraints, looking at what your prices are and how much volumes you're going to be selling to get a starting point. You can also look at what is happening within the industry by doing some research, studying your competitors to kind of get an estimate of what the revenue is like for the industry. So now it's not probably going to be 100% accurate because it is an estimate, but with time, it should get a little bit more accurate. And it is just a starting place, which is a good place to start. So after you have your revenue information collected, the next thing we're going to do is look at your expenses. And your expenses are going to need to be broken down into variable and fixed expenses. So I kind of wanted to point out the differences between those two. So first we have variable costs. And these are going to be any costs that are associated with producing your company's revenue, and it is going to vary in proportion to the amount of revenue. So as your revenue is going up, your variable costs are also increasing. We sometimes call these costs of goods sold or variable expenses. It's all the same thing. And some examples of what are variable costs, it includes raw materials, packaging, shipping, sales commission, direct labor as well. So things tied in proportion to the amount of units you are selling. The other category for your expenses is going to be fixed expenses. And these are costs that remain the same regardless of what your revenue does. So if you sell 0 units, these costs are going to be the same as if you sell 100 units. So these are also referred to as your overhead or your sales and general administrative expenses. So some examples of this on the screen are rent, insurance, accounting, marketing expenses, office supplies, just things that you need for your business that are not tied specifically to your revenue. Then you're going to examine your expenses. So once you have them categorized, it is easier to make decisions about what happens next. You can look at your previous spending and see if there are any additional expenses that you need to incorporate into the plan. For example, if you're trying to grow your business, maybe you need to add some additional marketing expenses. So you can look and see if there's room in the budget for those. On the flip side of that, there might be some unnecessary expenses that are not necessarily helping to grow your business, or you've just outgrown the service and they can be cut. So this is just a time to evaluate what expenses you have, if you need to increase your spending in certain areas, and if there can be potentially money saved in some other areas. So the fourth step after you have your goals, your revenue, and your expenses is to monitor the results. You should set a specific time frame for your budget. So maybe you have a budget for a month or a quarter or a year. And after the period ends, you want to take a step back and look and see if you were able to meet the intended goals that you had outlined in step 1. For a small business, it is probably best to have a budget on a monthly basis, just because a lot can change for a small business. And if you extend your budget out to a year, there might be some other issues or problems that go unnoticed throughout that whole year. So I think having a shorter time frame is best for small businesses. And a budget is going to get more accurate over time as you continue to develop those historical numbers. You make adjustments based off of that, based off of how fast you're growing. And it is going to help the business owner have a better understanding of their operations just as time goes on. And it can help lead to more informed operational decisions. So for monitoring the results of the budget, the business owner should take some time to reflect and see if there is anything that needs to be adjusted to better meet your goals. This is also a time to set your new goal, and you can kind of adjust based on your previous goal. You can also perform a variance analysis, which I'll touch on in a little bit here, to see how your budgeted results compare to your actual spending. And this can kind of provide some insights about what is going well, what's potentially not going well. Maybe there were a lot of unforeseen expenses, so maybe you need to incorporate more of a buffer into your budget for the next period. So here is an example of a finished budget with a variance analysis conducted. So this is just showing, so budgeted, we were expecting to bring in $504,000, but we only brought in $498,000. So there was a shortage of about $6,000. And you can kind of track throughout the entire profit and loss statement how that is going to impact your bottom line. And there were some here, for example, so we were over budget for legal expenses, so maybe something came up that we needed to just address, and we were under budget for dues and subscriptions. So just providing some good information about your performance compared to where you were anticipating your performance to be. And to create a budget, you can use any tool or software that is easiest for you to navigate. I love Excel, so that's probably my go-to, but you can use QuickBooks, or maybe your point of sale system will create something similar, Google Sheets, or just some other software that you are familiar with and that works for you. So here are some tips that I'm going to share with you all for how to successfully utilize a budget. So the first tip is make it realistic. So oftentimes people want to make $1 million their first month, but that is not necessarily how your business is going to run. It would be awesome if you get there, but being realistic comes with doing some market research and seeing trends in the industry, what your competitors are doing, so that you can set attainable goals that you will be able to achieve. So adding a bit of a buffer is a very important piece to building a budget. Since it is an estimate and it's not 100% accurate, that buffer is going to help save your business. And I always share this with people, but it is better to underestimate your revenues and overestimate your expenses, because that will add a built-in cushion. So by underestimating your revenues and overestimating your expenses, you will make a better case scenario for yourself. So you kind of have that already built in. Having a cushion is going to give yourself room to address kind of unforeseen expenses, or if your revenue isn't as high as you anticipate. So consider creating a monthly budget. I kind of touched on this. Monthly budgets are best for small businesses since so much can change over the course of operations. A monthly budget is going to allow you as the business owner to take action and get ahead of potential problems and kind of put an end to that before it impacts your business. And be mindful that expenses can change, and as they do, you want to be sure to update your budget to reflect those changes. So if your price for your one supplier goes up, or your utility price is going up, make sure to account for that in your budget, and you can do it live in real time. You don't have to wait for the period to end. And if you take all of the time to create a budget, make sure that you are going to be using it. It's a budget is going to help determine what projects are profitable, where you can spend additional money, and that can lead you to discovering how you can take your business to the next level of growth. Okay, so here are some key takeaways for creating a budget. So doing research and spending time creating a budget is going to help improve the accuracy of the numbers and tell your story better. Tracking a budget is going to also help make it more accurate in the future and easier to prepare for the next period. Make sure to review your budget periodically, and it will help to ensure that you're on track to meet your goals that you have outlined. And remember the simple 4-step process so that you don't get overwhelmed. And just as a quick review, the 4 steps are: step 1, define your goals. Step 2, look at your revenue. Step 3, categorize your expenses. And step 4, monitor your results. And with those 4 simple steps, you won't get overwhelmed and will have an effective budget. So a budget is a very simple way to keep track of the revenues that are coming into the business and the expenses for where you're spending the money. And it can help you find ways to save money, grow your business, and bring order to the chaos for the financial side of your business. So a lot of people tend to get overwhelmed with understanding the financial side of business, but remember, there are resources to help. The Small Business Development Center is just one example, and SBDCs are nationwide, and we provide free consulting services to business owners and entrepreneurs to grow, scale their business. And for the state of Nebraska, so on the screen here, we have 8 centers all across the state with consultants that are eager to help. So this is my contact information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. I think we have one in the chat, so let me look. No, okay. So if you have questions, put them in the chat, and I am happy to answer them. What are my thoughts on profit first ideology? Yeah, so profit first is looking at the bottom line first. So seeing what your margins are. I typically don't do profit first budgeting just because I like to look at the expenses first, see kind of how you need to get to the profit. So I don't usually do profit first, but it works well. And if that's something that is more effective for your business, then go for it, I guess. Okay, so somebody else asked, is there a way to track these things all in one place via an app or website just to make it easier to track? Yes, so you can track it all in one place. That's probably the best way to do it. So Excel, you can put a month-to-month budget, create your formulas, do a variance analysis in Excel. And I would recommend it's all in one place. So Excel, you can do it one place. For something like QuickBooks, it's all kind of in one place too, but you can export the report so it's like a monthly view or year to date, year end budget look. So yes, it is easier to track if it is all in one place. And then somebody else asked, is there a walkthrough video or document of best ways to lay out a business budget for startup businesses, possibly explaining the best formulas that they could use to set them up. Okay, so a couple of things I'll share with this. So there are so many templates. We have one at NBDC, so if you want it, I will happily share it with you. You can send me an email and I will provide you with that. So we have a template that we use. So it has all of the formulas set up, ready to go. So it's kind of just plug and chug. You get your numbers, input it, and it does all the behind the scenes work for you. There are also other organizations who have templates as well. So for example, SCORE Mentors, they have a whole resource library of templates and formulas, and they are free to use as well. Hopefully I answered that question. Somebody else said, how would you recommend tracking stats on a budget, such as finding the sales versus the profit? Okay, so 2 questions. How would you recommend tracking the stats on a budget? So I would take a monthly approach to it. So as you are tracking your, maybe with your bookkeeping in relation to your budget. So as you're incurring revenue or expenses, you're going to be filling that out with your books. So I think that that would be beneficial to utilize for creating the budget, helping with the stats. So if you don't have anything that you're using to track your sales or your expenses, I think the time to start is now. It's always helpful to have something formal to track your revenues and also how you can track your expenses. So like I mentioned, QuickBooks as a bookkeeping platform, there's so many others. I think if you sell online, things like Shopify will also help with that. And then tracking, finding sales versus profit. So sales are going to be your revenue. So all of the money that's coming in. So you can track this by looking at invoices sent to your customers, your revenues, cash collected, and versus the profit. So the profit is the bottom line, what you're taking home. So it looks at revenue minus your variable costs minus all your fixed costs. So to find those kind of different things, we will start with sales and looking at your revenue. So all of the money coming in from the places that I mentioned, and then we'll subtract out your cost of goods sold, and then the subtracting out your fixed expenses, so like your rent and things like that. And this is related to your bookkeeping. So after you subtract all of those, that will help you find your profit. And to track stats, so like to track changes in your budget, you can do a comparison from month to month and kind of do a trend line to see what is changing, what do you need to be aware of. At the NBDC, we can help out more if you have more specific questions about tracking budgets or setting up a budget. So here, I'll stop sharing, I guess, now that we're just chatting. Okay, and what would you recommend to keep invoicing all in one place? Is there a way to upload that on to a platform and keep it digital? Yes. So the one that I have mentioned a couple times is QuickBooks. That's just what I am familiar with. This is not an ad for them or anything, but it's just a common platform that people use, and you can upload and track everything digitally, so you don't need to keep the paper trail. And they have a QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. So there are some other organizations that do QuickBooks training that they would be able to kind of provide more information about that realm as well. Okay, let me just see if I have any other questions. is the best way? Oh, so the Nebraska Enterprise Fund does QuickBooks training monthly. There is a cost to it. I think it's about $50 or something, and they will do them several places throughout the state. So Omaha, Kearney. I'm not sure when the next one is, but if you send me an email, I can get that to you after this presentation.
Okay, is there any last minute questions for Kiley? I don't want to cut anyone off because I know it takes time to type. I'll just wait a minute and see here. Those are some really good questions. Not seeing any. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and pop my screen up and we'll wrap up. But thank you, Kiley, for that great information. And like I mentioned, her contact information will be in the recording send out. So if you have any questions that arise afterwards, no worries. You'll be able to contact her, or you can always reach out to me too if you have any questions for me. My email is zoe@grownebraska.org, or feel free to call our store and any of our Grow Nebraska team members will help you out. We do have some great upcoming trainings. Our next one will be July 5th with Maria Elena Duran, and she will cover how to launch your business with customer-focused marketing. And then on July 20th, we'll have Facebook 202, understanding analytics and how to utilize them for your best ROI. And that's with Alyssa Wyatt. And she has presented, I think, about like 2 different times. So she'll be a familiar face, and same with Maria. And feel free to scan the QR code if you want to go directly to the upcoming training page to get registered for those. We also have our 3rd July training up as well, and we're working on uploading our August ones. So feel free to scan that or go to grownebraska.org and click the upcoming training tab, and there you can register. And then save the date for Market Tech Conference. We have secured the date. It will be February 29th, so it's actually a leap year, which is super cool. 2024, so we will have the speakers announced here soon. So go to markettechconference.com to get updates. Maria Elena Duran will be back in 2024. She was our keynote speaker back in 2022, I believe. So she will be there, so that's super exciting. And then feel free to leave the Grow Nebraska Foundation a Google review. Reviews are truly appreciated by any Nebraska business or any business in general. So let us know how we're doing, and we would love to see your kind words. So feel free to scan the QR code, or you can type in the Grow Nebraska Foundation and our Google My Business page will pop up. But thank you again, Kiley, and thank you to everyone that attended live. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to the next webinar. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kiley.